so speaking of all those years of doing it, you've made some incredible friends. I want to show some pictures. You got some great pictures here. So we got Will.
I'm standing on a chair.
Yeah, I figured.
The funny part of this story is this is in San Francisco, and I have Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. And it was rare for me to ask for pictures and autographs. I really didn't ask for autographs because these people were working. I was hiring them, and I didn't want to ask them for anything special. But I really wanted a picture with Chamberlain and Russell together. By the way, Joe DiMaggio was not far from there either. And Wilt Chamberlain now, Bill Russell never signed autographs, didn't take pictures, and he had just started, he had agreed to sign. And I think this was the first show that he ever did, Bill Russell. But he was very shy. And I said, Will, because I knew Will. I had done business with him. I'd never done business with Russell, so I didn't know him personally. I said, I'd really like a picture with you and Bill Russell. That'd be really special for me. And Wilt says, Bill, come here. And Bill says, I don't want to take a picture. And Wilt, okay, now Wilt Chamberlain was big, okay? And Will Russell, I know was big, but Wilt was bigger and bigger, wide. And he says, Bill, you get over here right now. You're taking a picture with the boss. He called me the boss. And I said, it's okay. I'll just take it with you. No, I don't want to see two 7-footers fighting, okay? So I
got a question. Any word on the whereabouts of the basketball from his mythical 100-point game?
It's around. I think it.
You saying you own it?
No, I don't own it. I wish I did. But Wilt Chamberlain was awesome. We had dinners together, and he would tell me stories, and unbelievable. Nicest guy. Really great guy. Sandy Koufax, I've got his baseball up here. Whatever you've heard about him, you can just multiply it. Classiest guy. Always came in his suit like this, dressed fine, and treated me wonderfully. Just a mensch. And I would talk to him about not pitching on Yom Kippur. I told him I went to a Jewish school, and he said, yeah, that was just in my culture. It didn't matter. I wasn't going to pitch. So, great guy. So this guy is, right after his rookie year, he said he wanted me to handle his autographs, which I did for over 18 years. And one of the things that I like to talk about Tom Brady, what most people don't realize, he was the last quarterback drafted in that draft in the 6th round. But he believed in himself. He told me when he got to Michigan, there were, I can't remember the number, 8 or 9 quarterbacks. Back then, they would take a lot more players, the teams. Now they have a rule, they can only have so many. But back then, like a UT or Michigan would have about 100 players. And so Brady was like the 8th or 9th quarterback. But he always believed. And so the very first event I did with him, we finished the event, and he said, Jeff, how many autographs did I sign? And I told him the number. He says, are you sure? I said, oh, God. And he pulls out, he's got his BlackBerry, and he counted every single one. He says, I still owe you 5 autographs. You're off a little bit. And I knew I had the right guy at that point. This guy's different than everybody. He's as smart as they come. And Brian, got to meet him.
Can I tell a brief summary of that story? So I criticized Brady in a sermon. Remember Deflategate? I went after him a little bit. Jeff called me that next week and put me in my place, and he was right. He reminded me that Brady actually is a good guy, and I got to meet him. So I'm kind of glad I gave that sermon.
Well, I wanted Brian to actually meet the person because, and we all watch CNN or Fox, and so you can watch CNN and you can watch Fox, and you really have no idea what the truth is, right? Because the stories are so different. So I said, Brian, I've known him maybe not 18 years at that time, but maybe 15. And every single experience I've ever had was incredibly positive. Yeah. So I wanted Brian to see that. And he did, and Tom Brady is a winner. Whatever he does, we'll see him now. He's retired. You'll see he'll be very successful. But he cares about people. He wants you. Every time, and I've been around him probably 25 times in my career professionally. Every single time he says, Jeff, how did it go for you? Did I get everything done you need? I want to make sure it's all good. And that's a rare trait, but part of his success. Oh, this guy's an interesting guy. So he brought us, a World Series in 2017. Is it 17 or? 17. Yeah, 17. And unfortunately, we couldn't get there this year. But Justin Verlander had not signed autographs in about 10 or 12 years before 2000, maybe in 05, 06, his first years with the Detroit, but he just didn't want to sign autographs anymore. And I called his agent and I said, look, the Astros won the World Series. We're doing signings with every single player. He's the only one that won't do it. And he says, all right, I'm going to put you on the phone with him. You talk to him, whatever. And my partner, Bobby, was working with him. And somehow we convinced him to do it. But he said, I won't do it in Houston. We had everybody at a hotel in Houston after we won the 17 World Series, but not Verlander. He says, you're going to have to fly to, Beverly Hills, California. I said, okay. So I had a pretty good week. I had Ken Griffey Jr., I had Tom Brady, and then I fly to California to meet in a hotel room. And the first 2 hours, he just signs. He doesn't really say much, and he's really not happy to be there. He kind of, I think what happened, he got talked into it, but then when he showed up, he sees all the stuff that he's got to sign, and he wasn't too thrilled. I made a critical error. Remember, he had got married a few weeks after the World Series to the supermodel. I had Tom Brady sign a picture like 5 days before. I had it framed up, and I brought it with me. I should have given it to him when he walked in the room, but I forgot. So 2 hours in, I hand him the picture. It's what's the wife's name?
Kate Upton.
Kate Upton. No, I said
Get your supermodel straight.
He says, to Justin and Kate, congratulations on your marriage, Tom Brady. Justin completely 180-degree changed. He's like the happiest guy in the world. He gets on his phone. He FaceTimes Kate Upton. So now I'm getting to talk to Kate Upton. What a great day. And Kate Upton, he's like, this guy right here, he got us this picture. And I said, man, I should have done this 2 hours ago. But so the last hour went really good. We had talked about a lot of subjects. And now he has children, and he's mellowing out. But that was pretty special. But he has not done a signing since. I was hoping we'd win the series this year, and he'd do another one.
That's it, but small little gestures like that made a big difference.
Yes, for sure. Well, that's a dream team right there. As a young boy growing up on Limbaugh Street in Houston, Texas, I could have never dreamed being in the same room, much less friendly with Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, and Jim Brown. You can argue about each, but you can't argue that those are probably the three greatest running backs in the history of the NFL. All unique, but wonderful people. Of course, Jim Brown, we lost earlier, just passed away fairly recently. But Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith are still friends of mine to this day, great friends and very humble people. Don't act like they're so great, but they are. They're the greatest to ever play. Well, that was pretty special. That is 6211 Limbaugh. So I invited Muhammad Ali to Houston for a signing for his 50th birthday. So that is his 50th birthday. We had a little party at that's my parents' house where I grew up, and they still live. And there's no better human. And man, I wish he was here today because not then, but another time, I said, Champ, we need peace in the Middle East. And there's only one guy in the world I think can do it. I'm the Jew, so I'd like to go with you, but you're the Muslim. You're the most famous Muslim in the world. We should go to Israel. You'll get peace. Unfortunately, that never happened. He passed away several years ago, but he was a great guy.
So right after you made contact there, did he flinch?
I don't think so. And another Beth Yeshurun member who's about to have his bar mitzvah, Joe Kirk, is in the background. I don't know if we knew, what's the term when you're in the back of the picture?
Photobomb.
He's photobombed us, and I don't think we had that term in those days. But the champ was, he was unique because no matter where he went, he was the attraction, he was the star, but very humble, very, very humble man, and believed very heavily in his religion. But unlike what you read in the media, he did not despise white people. In fact, to the contrary, he was nice to every single person I ever saw him meet, including us who are Jewish, and that was special to me. He always treated me well. Oh, yeah, there's Mickey Mantle. Lots of great stories about the Mick. My father and my uncle Al Levin, we had a pretty nice dinner, if you remember. What was the steak restaurant? At Ruth Chris. So that night, we were supposed to have dinner at Tony's restaurant in town. And for those of you that remember Tony's, well, it's still here, but a different location now. You had to wear a sport coat in those days. And my Uncle Alan Levin called his friend Tony Valone, said, we're going to bring in a special guest tonight, Mickey Mantle. And when we showed up, I thought he wouldn't have to wear a sport coat. And here comes the maitre d' trying to put a sport coat on Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle says Mickey Mantle doesn't wear sport coats to dinner. And so he wouldn't eat at Tony's. So we had to make a quick left turn and go to Route Chris. And if you remember the old Route Chris on Richmond, it had about a 45-degree angle to get up to the second level where you ate. And that was fine, if you remember, Dad, Alan, that was fine getting there. But when we left, there had been 3 bottles of liquor and 3 bottles of liquor and 6 bottles of wine. And I don't know that the 3 of us touched any, but the 3 people on the other side, Mickey Mantle, the woman with him, and his son was with us, they drank all of that. So we had to get him down those stairs. I thought I was done. I thought I was going to lose Mickey Mantle. But as great as he was, that was a Saturday. He signed about 4,000 autographs that weekend, came back and signed Saturday, and he was in better shape drunk than I was sober, I remember. And but he was wonderful to work with. Again, very humble, treated me well. I had a little problem at the show. Somebody had forged our autograph tickets and beat me out of a lot of money. And a lot of players would have just said, sorry, that's your problem. And he ended up helping me and signing more items for the public. And something to the day he died and to the day I die, I'll never forget that again, he treated me well. And I think that's, all about, as a young man in Oklahoma, he learned the right way, and I tried to treat him well, and he took care of me. Yeah, he paid for dinner. Yeah, he did. And a lot of athletes today do not pay for dinner. Hard to believe people make $100 or $200 million contracts, and the agents still pay for all of the meals. And that's something of athletes from that era did that. They were just raised that way, and they didn't make $100 million deals.
Well, let's switch gears for a minute and talk about your own personal collection, because you started this whole thing as a collector, and you've continued to do that. And you've got quite an impressive collection. Just some random questions here. What was the first? Do you remember the first collectible or first card you ever got?
So yeah, I think it was about 1971. 71 or 72. My mother might be able to help me. So I don't know if she'll remember, but I lost a tooth from baseball. Was it from Little League? Somebody knocked out like a tooth, and my mother had to take me to the dentist to get it. What did they call that back then? But I had to have some pretty serious dental work as a very young kid, and my mother knew, get him baseball cards, and that'll keep him happy. And back then, a pack of cards was about 10 cents, and there were about 36 in a box. And I think my father got me a full box of these baseball cards. And, that was it. That probably started it all. But that was to make me happy, and it worked.
And that got you going. And what was the last piece that you've added?
The last piece of it. Well, my wife will tell you, Lori will say that we get packages daily in our place. What have I just gotten recently? Ken Griffey Jr. is still one of my clients. So in the last couple of days, I've gotten some neat Ken Griffey Jr. pieces because we're going to do a signing with him early next year. Excuse me. And I want to add some things to my collection. So I just got some Ken Griffey Jr. cards and some different items that I'm going to have him sign.
Now, I don't know if you view these things like, some artists say like their songs or their kids, it's hard to pick a favorite one, but what do you consider your most prized collectible?
I do say the same. I mean, it's like, who's your favorite child? So Muhammad Ali was always really my favorite. I respected him as a human, that, he didn't want to fight in wars. A lot of people didn't like him because they called him a draft dodger. But when I heard about that, I respected that he said something to the effect, I can't quote it exactly, but I don't want these people going over and fighting, sort of the politicians' battles thousands of miles. I think it was talking about Vietnam, thousands of miles away. And I don't know why that resonated with me, but I didn't think that was right, that young college-age kids would have to go and fight these battles. Interesting, the times we're in now. So I just loved Ali, and I bought the gloves that he used to fight Frazier in 1971 in the fight of the century. And there's more to this story. So I own those gloves, and any collector would tell you that's like, the Mona Lisa. But he passed away, and we were in Dallas. Was it Marla's bat mitzvah, maybe? My niece's bat mitzvah. And it was really emotional for me that this hero passed away. And I talked about going to his funeral, but it was my niece's bat mitzvah, so I couldn't leave Dallas. And when Ali was at my parents' home, and many times he did not like collectibles. He had no interest in the past. That was in the past. And he didn't understand the value. And he said, Jeff, sell all this stuff. You're going to have kids, and they're going to need to go to college. Get rid of all this stuff. You don't need all this. Muhammad Ali really didn't believe in material possessions. It's pretty well known he would give away his money, give away his material possessions. He's a Muslim, and he didn't believe in this. So when he died, I think that was how many years ago now? It wasn't her bat mitzvah. I don't remember what it was. Maybe 6 years ago or so. So my wife, Lori, and I, that year, Ali was going to do, you know how there's Elvis Presley, what's it called, where Elvis Presley lives in Memphis? Graceland, thank you. The same company was going to start like a Muhammad Ali, like a Graceland for Muhammad Ali. So the first thing they were doing in London, England, a collection of Muhammad Ali memorabilia. And his wife called me. She knew I had these gloves. And she said, I'd like to take these gloves to this. It'll be like the centerpiece of this collection in London. What do you want for that? I said, well, here's what I want. Like, she thought I was going to say money. I didn't want any money. I said, I want my wife and I to fly with the two of you to the grand opening of this exhibit in London. She said, well, that's easy, no problem. Well, Muhammad got sick, and then he died so he got sick, so we postponed, but we put on the calendar in June we were going to go. And I think about 3 weeks before he passed. And again, it was very emotional to me. So all of this was in my head, and I said, I'm going to listen to somebody. For once, Muhammad, I'm going to sell the gloves. Jacob was, my son was 17, I believe. Yeah, that would fit Marla's bat mitzvah, my niece's bat mitzvah. So my son was, like in high school, junior, senior. I'm going to sell the gloves, and I'm going to put the money for his, he was talking at that time about medical school, and I'm going to take the money and I'm going to put it to his college and medical school fund, which I did. So I sold them. That was emotional. I miss them. I wish I still had the gloves, but I have the lesson, which is, college, medical school, whatever, is much more important than something tangible. So I sold them. It's like the only thing I've ever sold in my collection, but it was for a better cause.
Well, those are some amazing stories. We're going to go do a quick little last segment here that we call our quick response part, and then we'll open it up to see if there's some questions from the crowd here tonight. Okay? So just whatever comes to mind. The beard.
Oh, James Harden, of course.
Any thought on him? Just what do you think? Yeah, James Harden, other.
One of the best offensive players of our generation. I really thought he could lead us, help with Chris Paul and all these other guys to a championship. He was always nice to me, signed at several of our conventions, which again, he's never done another one. He's only done ours. We had a great relationship. Now, I'm not really so sure what's going to happen. I'm disappointed that he's not playing for the Sixers. I'm a strong believer if you sign a contract, you should live up to that. He signed a contract, he should play for the Sixers, but right now he's decided he doesn't want to do that.
Is there any chance that my signed number 13 Rockets jersey by James Harden is worth more than my penny collection?
Well, maybe today, maybe not, but we've got time. He's still playing, so we'll see how that materializes.
All right, another interesting name, the Rocket.
Well, this is one of the most special people in my life, of my professional life, is Roger Clemens. So, what year was that, Dad? That I got diagnosed with cancer in 2006. In 2006, I was getting ready to head to Austin, Texas, to go watch University of Texas and Vince Young beat USC for the national championship. And Roger Clemens, one of my clients for the last 30 years, said, Jeff, I want you to fly with me on a private plane. We're going to go to this game and that. And I said, Roger, I'm not feeling good. I can't go. And my good friend Jack Stopnick, he said, man, there must be something wrong because this is Jack and my dream to see the Longhorns play in the national championship. And Jack bugged me the day before the game. I said, okay, I'll go. So I didn't go with Roger. I went with Jack, and I was not feeling good. Came home the next day. We did the red eye back because I was feeling so bad. And I went to the doctor, and Jewish doctor who starts asking me, he says, I see you at all the synagogue and Emory events. And I said, look, Doc, I can't talk. I'm sick. You got to see what's wrong. And he diagnosed me with cancer, unfortunately. And Roger Clemens was calling me because he knew something was wrong. And he said, can I help you? And what I didn't tell you was on the plane I was going on, or that Roger was going to the game that I got invited, was Matthew McConaughey and Lance Armstrong. And I said, I need Lance Armstrong. I just got diagnosed with testicular cancer. So imagine this conversation. He puts Lance Armstrong on the line, and I ask him who his doctor is. And Lance Armstrong had the guy who figured out what testicular cancer was, a young doctor in the 1960s, I think around 68 or 69. Does everybody remember Brian's song, the movie? Brian Piccolo had testicular cancer, but then they called it brain cancer. They didn't even know it started in the testicular region. Well, a young intern, basically, a young kid in medical school, figured that out. And he now is the preeminent guy for testicular cancer. So I told Lance Armstrong, I need the name of your doctor. And since that day, Roger Clemens called me, sent things to our home. So what I learned about humans, because you guys have heard stories about Roger Clemens and some in not so good light, but he was the best, treated me great. To this day, he'll text me, how are you feeling? Because I got cancer again 3 years ago. But those relationships, and again, you'll never read this in the Houston Chronicle, but Roger Clemens to me is one of the greatest humans because he cared about me as a human. And so I have high regard for Roger Clemens.
Wow. And he did not know that I was going to say that, by the way. So, anyway, all right, greatest Houston athlete of all time.
You know, man, we've had a lot of great ones. Hard to say, again, so many, but I think Nolan Ryan was kind of the guy that I loved. I would go get autographs at the Astrodome, and Nolan Ryan was like 39, 40 years old, and he worked harder than any player. And these are true stories. So the Astros, he would pitch, and the game at the Dome would end at about 10:30. I would wait till like midnight or 12:30 in the morning because he had to go through all of his, baths and whatever he did after a game. He'd walk out, and here's me and about 5 young guys, and we'd say, Mr. Ryan, would you mind signing? And we might hand him 5 baseball cards. He sat and signed every single one. This is 12:30 in the morning. He'd probably arrived at the Dome at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock that day, but he had time for us. I never forgot that. And so to me, he's the greatest.
All right, well, brought in the last one here is who's the GOAT, any sport, not soccer, but you can include hockey.
Of course, I love Tom Brady, but really the guy that I grew up loving was Michael Jordan. What he did, regular season, playoffs, he never took a minute off. I remember going to watch him at the Summit, and I was lucky enough to get his autograph when I was a young kid. But he played every minute hard and won all these 7 championships. So to me, I'll never forget Jordan. I just thought what he did, offense, defense. Some guys are offensive specialists. We were talking about Harden, but he did it all. So to me, he's the GOAT from my perspective.
Man, Jeff, I could listen to you. I mean, it's incredible stories. So first of all, let's give him a hand. That was awesome. So I know the hour's late, and we'll have a chance for people to gather with you, but let's get just a couple questions.
Well, I just want to say that Jeff has talked about all these wonderful, wonderful people and how well they treated him with respect. Jeff has been successful because he has treated all these men with respect. And he cares about what they do, what they've done, and he's a mensch. And his success comes from the fact that he's so real. I just think he's one of the greatest.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed. I agree. Thank you for saying that. Any questions at all? David?
Just a quick question, Jeff. I'm sure one of the major headaches in your industry is the amount of probably forged autographs that are out there. As a collector, or instead of going, I know TriStar is very reputable. There's a few other that are reputable, PSA, et cetera, for letter authenticity. But what do you look for? I mean, how can you tell if something is fraudulent, and what do you look for?
So that's a great question and could have a long answer. But the short answer is, unless I saw it signed or I have a real expertise with that autograph, I'm going to other experts. So you mentioned PSA. For those of you who watch Pawn Stars, there's a guy named Steve Grad. He was at PSA, now he's at Beckett. I'm going to the 2 or 3 or 4 great experts to ask them their opinion. So I've seen a lot of autographs, like whether it's Mickey Mantle, Wilt Chamberlain, Nolan Ryan, even Babe Ruth. I never saw him sign one, but I've seen a lot. But if I have a question, I'm going to the expert. And what I tell people, if you see something that looks like a great deal, it almost invariably is not. And I got burned. When I was young, I'd buy a Babe Ruth baseball for $500 or $1,000, and it turned out to be a forgery. This is 30 to 40 years ago. We didn't have all these experts. We didn't have the technology. So everybody has to be mindful that if a deal looks too good to be true, there's a good chance. If you see a Mickey Mantle baseball for $50, it could be, but 99% of the time, it's not really Mickey Mantle. Somebody who just wrote that name. So, it's a challenge, but an opportunity in our business.
One more question. Any more questions? Okay, so let's do this. Take 2 seconds and you got some awesome memorabilia here that you brought to
So
show.
I talked about Sandy earlier, and this was funny because we were at a show, and he signed everything. And he's like, have I signed everything? Did you get something? And I said, well, I didn't actually get anything. And somebody who worked with me said, we got this baseball over here. So Sandy Koufax signed this baseball, said, here, I want you to have something. You put all this together, you should get an autograph. So I've had that sitting on my desk for 30 years because, he thought about me. And so that was important to me. And again, being Jewish, Sandy Koufax, I read all the books when I was a youngster and just had a big respect for him. And of course, Brian, we went to University of Texas. So this ball is really special for me. And I told you the story. I got to go to the championship game that Vince Young won over USC. So this ball is signed by every coach and quarterback who won a national championship at UT. So starting in 1963, this is the quarterback, Duke Carlisle. 1969's quarterback was James Street. 1970, Eddie Phillips. And of course, 2005-06 season, Vince Young. And then the 2 coaches are Darryl Royal, Mac Brown. Again, I don't like selling memorabilia, but these 2 things, they'll be passed down to my children and stuff because these are important to me. And again, just the picture, you saw the picture earlier. I think you saw both of these pictures. And Steve, that was tough when you said the GOAT because I always answered that question with Muhammad Ali because he is the GOAT as a talent, but not a team sport player, and a human, but as a team sport player, I went with Jordan. But individual sport, Muhammad Ali, he is the GOAT as a great and as a human.
Well, first, a couple thank yous. First, before thank yous, one, Jeff, continued refuah shlema, continued health and well-being. You do so much good for our community and the Jewish people, your family, and for the sports world. So continue good health. Only blessings for your beautiful family and all the family that's here tonight.
Thank you.
And thank Jeff Rosenberg for being here tonight.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
And I better say thank you because the room would be kind of empty if my family and my friends who came, all my friends who came, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And thank you to Philip and to Jennifer Rosenzweig and to Stephen Sheldon for planning everything tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. Again, thank you to Jeff Rosenberg.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.